In this age, men live surrounded by softness. The air they breathe, the food they eat, the world they move through, all are built to comfort, not to challenge. Yet comfort is a silent thief. It takes strength without pain, courage without battle, purpose without noise. The modern man has gained ease but lost edge. He wakes not to face the day, but to escape it. He reaches for the glow of a screen before he has even felt the ground beneath his feet. His spirit has forgotten what it means to be tested. In my time, every sunrise was a summons. There was no warmth of laziness to hide behind. The body rose with the sun because it had to, survival demanded it. The warrior's path offered no luxury of delay. Each morning the body and mind were tempered like steel in the forge. Pain was not avoided. It was welcomed, for it revealed truth. A blade that never meets resistance remains dull. A spirit that never faces hardship remains weak. Modern men no longer fight battles of sword and blood, but the war within them is fiercer still. The enemies today wear different faces: distraction, doubt, comfort, indulgence. They attack not from outside but from within, quietly through ease and repetition. Each morning becomes a negotiation with the self, to rise or to rest, to act or to delay. Most lose this battle before they even begin. The warrior, however, rises without argument. He knows that the comfort of the bed is not rest, but surrender. The loss of struggle has cost men their strength of spirit. When life demands nothing of you, you forget what you are capable of. The samurai trained not only to fight others but to master the self, to remain sharp when the world softened around him. He understood that the greatest enemy was not the warrior across the field but the weakness waiting inside. Today, that same enemy whispers through convenience, "You've done enough. You deserve to relax. You can start tomorrow." Those words have defeated more men than any blade ever could. To wake like a warrior is to rise with command, not confusion. It is to open the eyes and remember that the day is an opportunity for mastery, not escape. The 1% who live this way understand that ease is the path of decay. They train not because they feel like it, but because they must. In their routine there is purpose. In their stillness there is power. They have traded comfort for clarity, and that trade has made them free. I have seen that when a man abandons discipline, his spirit dulls. He becomes restless, searching for meaning in things that cannot provide it: wealth, distraction, pleasure. These are not wrong to pursue, but they must never lead. The warrior leads himself through principle, not impulse. The world has many voices calling for his attention, but the disciplined man hears only one, the voice within that says, "Stand up, move forward, be better than yesterday." There is no honor in a life spent avoiding difficulty. The path of least resistance may feel safe, but it leaves a man hollow. The warrior knows that struggle is sacred. It purifies, it strengthens, it awakens. Each morning that begins with effort instead of ease is a victory, no matter how small. You do not need a sword to walk this path, only a will that refuses to bend to comfort. The modern world offers everything except meaning. Meaning must be forged by choice, by commitment, by sacrifice. A man who learns to embrace hardship in a world that worships comfort becomes rare, and the rarest of men lead the rest. Comfort kills the warrior long before battle ever begins. Before the blade ever strikes, the mind must already be still. In the old days, we understood this truth deeply, that chaos outside is nothing compared to the chaos within. The untrained man rushes into the day as if movement alone will bring mastery. But motion without clarity is like swinging a sword in the dark, noisy, wasteful, and blind. The warrior, on the other hand, begins with silence. Before he moves, he listens. Before he acts, he aligns. That stillness is not emptiness, it is command. Modern men have forgotten this discipline. They wake to noise, the hum of machines, the buzz of messages, the weight of endless distraction. They reach for their devices before they reach for their breath. Their minds are filled before their bodies even rise. In this way, they begin the day already defeated, pulled by the currents of the world before they've even stood in their own power. The warrior's way is different. He does not rush to meet the world, he first meets himself. When I trained in the mountains, I learned to hear silence speak. The air before dawn carries a wisdom that no words can teach. The stillness of the morning was my first lesson in mastery, the understanding that clarity must come before motion. When the mind is still, even the smallest movement becomes precise. When the mind is scattered, even great effort leads to nothing. The modern man believes productivity is power, but it is not. Power is focus, and focus can only be born from stillness. In stillness, the warrior finds truth. He confronts his thoughts without distraction. He sees his fears, his ambitions, his weaknesses, and his strength. Most people flee from this confrontation, filling every moment with noise so they never have to face themselves. But you cannot master a world you refuse to see, and you cannot see clearly through the fog of constant motion. The first battle every man must win is the one against his own restlessness. The discipline of stillness is not about sitting quietly. It is about sharpening awareness. When you breathe with intention, when you observe your thoughts without reacting, you reclaim control. In that moment, emotion loses its grip, distraction fades, and what remains is presence, pure and sharp. The samurai carried this presence into every act, whether walking, eating, or fighting. Each action was deliberate because the mind behind it was unmoving. This is why a single stroke could decide life or death, not because of strength, but because of precision born from stillness. Modern men live in constant pursuit of movement, more work, more noise, more stimulation. But endless motion without mastery only weakens the spirit. The man who cannot be still cannot lead, cannot think, and cannot see beyond his impulses. The warrior trains his mind to be still so that his actions may be unstoppable. Stillness does not mean inaction, it means intention. Every movement that follows comes from a place of clarity rather than confusion. When the world was at peace, we still trained. When there was no enemy in sight, we still prepared. This discipline was not for battle alone, it was for life. For when the moment of decision arrives, a scattered mind hesitates, and hesitation is death. The modern man faces this same truth each day, not with swords but with choices. The one who begins his morning in chaos spends his day chasing calm. The one who begins in stillness carries peace into everything he touches. The 1% who understand this do not chase motivation, they cultivate command. Their mornings are not rushed, they are deliberate. They train their minds before they train their bodies, because they know that no movement matters unless the mind behind it is steady. They live as the old warriors lived, quiet before powerful, patient before precise. Clarity before motion, that is the way of mastery. A man without a code is a sword without a hand to wield it, sharp but directionless. In the old days, a warrior's worth was not measured by what he owned or how loudly he spoke, but by the principles that shaped his every choice. Honor was not something to be claimed. It was something to be lived, moment by moment, in silence and precision. That is what the modern man has forgotten. He moves through life chasing pleasure, comfort, and recognition, but these things are smoke. They vanish the moment you reach for them. A man must stand for something greater than himself, or he will fall for everything that tempts him. In the age of the samurai, every action carried meaning because it was bound to purpose. We rose with the sun not simply to train, but to discipline the spirit. We bowed before battle not for ceremony, but to remind ourselves that life and death hang in balance. The sword was not drawn in anger or pride, it was drawn in duty. Each act, however small, reflected the code we lived by. That code was our armor. Without it, we were no different from beasts driven by instinct. Today, the world praises impulse. Men are told to follow feelings, to seek what pleases them most. But feelings are fragile, they shift like the tide. Purpose endures. The modern man has all the tools of power but none of the guidance. He is surrounded by abundance yet starving for meaning. The endless pursuit of pleasure has left him hollow because pleasure cannot fill the place of purpose. To live with purpose is to live by a code, one that demands honesty, courage, and loyalty to what is right, even when it brings no reward. The code does not change with mood or circumstance. It is steady, like the mountain. And when life strikes with chaos, the man who has a code does not break. He bends and then returns to stillness. When I walked the path of the sword, temptation was constant. not of wealth or fame, but of pride. Pride whispers that the self is the center of all things, but a true warrior knows that the self must serve something higher: mastery, discipline, truth. In this service, he finds peace. The man who serves only himself becomes restless, always searching for more and finding nothing. But the man who serves a principle larger than himself cannot be shaken, even when the world turns against him. The samurai code, Bushido was built on these truths: righteousness, respect, courage, honor, and self-control. It was not about glory, but about integrity. It was the art of living in such a way that your presence brings stability to others. Today, the modern man has traded that stability for approval. He seeks to impress others rather than master himself. He asks the world for validation instead of earning his own respect. But the warrior's path has no audience. It does not need one. It is a dialogue between a man and his conscience, silent, disciplined, eternal. To live by a code is to wake each day and remember that your actions echo beyond yourself. Your words, your thoughts, your decisions, they all form the shape of your spirit. You cannot fake honor. You either live by it or you do not. It reveals itself in how you handle silence, how you face failure, how you treat others when no one is watching. These are not old ideas, they are eternal ones. The modern man needs them more than ever because he has every comfort but no center. Without a code, even the strongest man drifts. Purpose gives direction to power. Without it, discipline loses its aim and strength becomes dangerous. The code does not limit freedom, it refines it. It turns chaos into clarity, movement into mastery, and life into art. When you rise each morning, you must ask not what you want, but what you will serve. A man who lives by purpose cannot be broken. The sword was never the true weapon of the samurai. It was only an extension of something greater, the discipline that forged the hand, the mind, and the spirit that held it. Without mastery of the self, even the sharpest blade is useless. The power of a warrior was not born in battle. It was born in repetition, in the sacred rituals performed long before the first strike. The modern man no longer carries a sword, yet he faces battles no less real: the battle against distraction, against weakness, against the slow decay of spirit that comes from living without order. To win these battles, he too must sharpen his inner blade. In my time, every movement was ritual. We rose before dawn, not because it was convenient, but because it shaped the mind. We trained our bodies not for appearance, but for precision. We cleaned our blades not because they were dirty, but because the act reminded us of care and respect. These were not habits of routine, they were declarations of intent. Every act was a reminder that discipline is the foundation of freedom. Modern men often confuse freedom with doing whatever they wish, but true freedom is doing what must be done, even when it is difficult. Rituals are what keep the mind from drifting into weakness. They are the structure that gives strength to the soul. When you repeat an action with presence, waking early, breathing deeply, training your body, stilling your mind, you are not just building habit, you are shaping identity. The act itself becomes sacred. The repetition becomes a forge. Every morning you rise and follow your ritual, you are sharpening the unseen sword within you. Modern life seeks to erase ritual. The world encourages speed over stillness, comfort over discipline, distraction over purpose. Men are told to find shortcuts, to seek convenience, to skip the grind. But what they do not see is that ease corrodes the spirit. A man without ritual becomes a man without roots. He wakes without aim, moves without awareness, and sleeps without peace. His blade dulls quietly, and by the time he realizes it, he can no longer cut through the chaos that surrounds him. The strength of the samurai came from constancy. When the body grew tired, the mind remembered the ritual. When fear whispered, the ritual silenced it. When confusion arose, the ritual gave order. This is the power of repetition done with intention. It transforms discipline into instinct. The warrior no longer needs to think about strength. He becomes strength itself. The modern man has the same opportunity. He may not wield a sword, but he can wield his habits with equal precision. He can train his body as the old warriors did, not for vanity but for mastery. He can rise early to meet stillness before the world awakens. He can practice focus through meditation, clarity through journaling, patience through breath. These are the modern forms of the ancient rituals. A ritual is not about perfection, it is about presence. The warrior never sought flawless movement, only full awareness. Even when he stumbled, he learned. Even when he failed, he grew. The point of ritual is not to escape struggle, but to embrace it daily, to meet it with steady rhythm until resistance becomes reverence. Through this, the modern man can reclaim what he has lost: his focus, his direction, his calm. When a man's life is guided by ritual, he no longer reacts to the world, he directs it. His mornings no longer belong to chance, his emotions no longer control his actions, his fears no longer hold his will. Each day becomes a ceremony, not of grand display, but of quiet mastery. A mind disciplined by ritual cannot be shaken because it does not depend on emotion or circumstance. It depends only on commitment. The warrior's weapon was never the steel in his hands, it was the structure in his soul.